And welcome to another exciting episode of Between the Hash Marks. I am Sean McCabe here with the one and only James Kogelik. We have an absolutely loaded show today. We have the college football rankings. We have our NFL Midseason Power rankings. You can access our show on Facebook at Between the Hash Marks. You can listen to us on YouTube at Between the Hash Marks. You can also listen to us on iTunes and the Android podcast app, Between the Hash Marks. But first, it's time for my opening rant.
Your number one source for sports.
You know who I can't stand? Kevin Durant.
He looks like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had a kid.
Now, who can argue with that?
I hate Boston.
I'm the biggest Miami Heat hater you'll ever meet.
I just don't understand where you're getting your bogus information from.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, I'm sorry you're too freaking sensitive to handle the truth.
You think I'm crazy? I'm just getting warmed up.
You're now Between the Hash Marks with James Kogelak and Sean McCabe.
I absolutely love the college football playoff. It obviously works. It worked the first year we saw it, the very second game with Ohio State beating Alabama, the 4 seed beating the number 1 seed, a team Alabama we thought was the best team going into that year, and boom, because of this playoff we had craziness and excitement all across the board. It is by far the best playoff system we have in all of sports. Maybe you can argue baseball does a very good job with theirs as well. But the college football playoff system is not perfect yet. There needs to be an expansion to 8 teams, or at the very least 6 teams. Good teams get left off every single year that really deserve to be into the playoffs. Going into each and every year that we have had the college football ranks, this is going to be the 4th year now. So we've had 3 years prior. Last year, we had Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Washington. Teams that got left off were number 5, Penn State, number 6, Michigan, number 7, Oklahoma, and number 8, Wisconsin. All 4 of those teams had a very equal shot, a very real shot of being the number 1 team in the country last year. The previous year, we had Clemson, Alabama, Michigan State, and Oklahoma. But Iowa was number 5, Stanford was 6, Ohio State was number 7, and Notre Dame was 8. You could argue that year that Ohio State was the second best team in the country that year. And the year before, when we had Bama, Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State, we had Baylor at number 5 and TCU at number 6, and Mississippi State, Dak Prescott's team at number 7. And a Michigan State team at number 8. Though the fact that the Big 12 did not have a representative that year, even though Baylor and TCU were both dominant in every single game that they've played, is absurd. Last year we had Clemson as the number 1 team in the country. At the end of the whole thing, they beat Alabama, but they lost to Pittsburgh, a team that was terrible all year. They almost lost to NC State, a team that was mostly terrible all year. But Clemson won the national championship. You're telling me that Penn State, Michigan, and Oklahoma and Wisconsin did not have a chance to beat a team like Clemson or Alabama or Ohio State or Washington? What do you think?
I disagree, totally. I think the 4 is perfect right now. Maybe expand it to 6 as the years go on, but right now it's perfect at 4. Last year, you're going to tell me that Wisconsin had a legitimate shot at beating Alabama? No chance. There was one team in the nation last year that had one shot at beating Alabama, and that was Clemson. The number 4 seed, Washington, was smoked by Bama in the first round of the playoffs. There is too much gap between good teams and great teams in college football. Going back to the first year, yes, TCU and Baylor, they balled out all season. But did they have a legitimate shot at beating an Oregon or a Florida State with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota? And we're not even talking about Bama here in this one, even though they were the number 1 team in the country at that time. And they lost to an Ohio State team that had an Ezekiel Elliott. I think that too often, and more often than not, the 5, 6, 7, 8 teams, do not get me wrong, they are talented. There is a reason they are 5, 6, 7, and 8. but there's also a reason that they're not 1, 2, 3, and 4 because they aren't good enough to be a 1, 2, 3, or 4. College football, you always see the same teams being good and good because of recruiting. That's the difference between college and pro football, and everybody should know that. But there's too big of a gap in talent differential between the 8 seed and the 1 seed in NCAA, and I think it's going to be like that going forward every year.
See, I think you're just having a little bit of recency bias because Alabama has been so good, especially over the past 3 or 4 seasons, when it hasn't always been like that. I mean, I remember watching games in 2010 or 2011 where Ohio State is ranked number 1, and then they go to Wisconsin, who's ranked 25th, and Wisconsin beats them by 2 touchdowns. So there's games like that, but because of Alabama's just been so dominant lately, that has not really happened. But that's kind of an anomaly how good Alabama has been. We haven't really had teams that have been that dominant.
And to say that they've been that dominant and they fall to the number 2 seed this college football power ranking, that's absurd to me. But I do get it. But I think it should be 4. Maybe in 5 years from now they can extend it to 6, and in 5 years after that they can extend it to 8. When there's more,
well, it absolutely needs to be 6 because I mean I can understand your argument. Wisconsin did not deserve to be in, and maybe not Oklahoma. But you're telling me Michigan was not a worthy team when they really should have beaten Ohio State in that game. And if it was that matchup, we would have had a rematch of that game. You're telling me Penn State was not good enough? Penn State was dominating after that Michigan loss last year. Penn
State and Michigan last year, that's a different story. They were both phenomenal. The Big Ten last year was awesome between those 2 teams, Ohio State, Wisconsin. They had a lot of good teams in the Big Ten last year. But more often than not, the 5, 6, 7, 8 team over the last 5 years there's been too much of a talent deficiency between those teams. Now, that can all change moving forward. That all depends on scouting. Nick Saban's not going to be with Alabama forever. Dabo Swinney will not be at Clemson forever. Jim Harbaugh will not be at Michigan forever. These great recruiting coaches will not be with these teams forever. The landscape of college football will change. There will be more parity, but as of right now, at this very second, the only way I can see it working with 6 teams is if you're giving the first 2 teams a bye.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it would work with 6 teams, or if not, that's why I say 8, so nobody has the bye. Go ahead.
I could somewhat agree with 6 because I think that it gives it an incentive for the first. If you make that first or second seed, just like in the NFL, you get that bye. You automatically move on to the second round of the playoffs. But to go to 8, I think that right now and within the near future, I'd say the next 5 years, I don't think any number 8 seed will beat a number 1 seed if it were 1 through 8 in the college football playoff.
See, this year I completely disagree with you because I think this year is a lot closer than normal. Now, I still think Alabama is by far the number 1 team, even though they have Georgia, whatever, it doesn't matter. But just kind of segueing into the college football rankings that we have. Georgia, we have Georgia at number 1, and we have TCU at number 8. I think TCU can beat Georgia.
Okay, but now let's flip it. Now let's put the real team there because everybody in the country knows that Alabama will beat Georgia if they were on a neutral site right now. I believe that the spread at the moment, Vegas' spread for an Alabama-Georgia game, neutral site, Alabama's favored by 10. How are they the number 2 team is beyond me. Put Alabama at number 1. Is TCU going to come close to Alabama?
Probably not. But if you have Penn State and Alabama go up against each other, I think that's a 1-score game.
That could be a 1-score game, yes. Now, that would all depend on 2 things to me. Can Alabama's defense stop Saquon Barkley? And can Penn State's offense consistently get the ball downfield on Bama's defense? So that right there would be the matchup to watch. And it could definitely be a 1-score game. I don't see it being more than a 10-point game. Either way, because Penn State's phenomenal. I will say right now, Penn State is better than Ohio State in my mind. And that game last week did not prove anything to me because Penn State beat Ohio State last year and Ohio State was in. And guess what? Ohio State got demolished by Clemson.
Yeah,
Penn State would have put up a much better game than Ohio State last year. Anything can happen, and I truly believe that Penn State is better than them. Penn State will be higher up in the rankings by the end of the season, but right now, in my 4, I have Alabama 1, Georgia 2, Notre Dame 3, Clemson 4.
Okay.
If you want me to make a prediction of what 4 teams I think will make it to the end, honestly, the only one I can see coming out is Clemson, and Oklahoma being put in there, because Oklahoma will have a win against Ohio State, and the one loss they'll have will be.
So you think the 4 teams that they have in right now are the correct 4 teams, even though it's in the wrong order?
Yes.
So yeah, I completely disagree. I don't think Notre Dame is that good. I understand their one loss is to Georgia, and Georgia is undefeated, but I don't think Georgia is as good as everybody thinks. And I think when they play Alabama and they get wrecked by them by 17 points, they're going to drop down. Now I do think Ohio State is actually better than Penn State. Yeah, Penn State fan here. That was the most sickening game to watch to me. It's just, when you can see it coming when you're up 35-20 and you're just like, it's not enough. We need more, and everything just starts to fall apart, just exactly how you thought it would fall apart. And honestly, I don't think this, like, that everybody wants to say, oh, JT Barrett is now a front runner for the Heisman. I think this is complete hogwash. Honestly, Penn State's defense looked terrible in the fourth quarter. I don't really give any credit to JT Barrett at all in that. I do give credit to Ohio State's defense, especially in the fourth quarter, for really locking down. Over the course of the entire game, they only gave up like 300 yards the entire game, and they put up like almost 600. They probably would have if they were continue to be losing, and they would have kept trying in the fourth quarter. I think they would have been at close to 600 yards. But I have Alabama number 1. I mean, I think they're clear and away the number 1 team in the country. But then I have Ohio State number 2. I really think they are that good. They've been playing, since that Oklahoma loss, they have been playing extremely better, and they hadn't had that signature win until the Penn State game.
I don't like JT Barrett, though.
No,
I don't trust him.
But if you look at JT Barrett, is he a top 10 quarterback in the nation? Probably. If top 15, if anything.
I could go top 15, but top 10, I'm not sure about. Maybe like 11 or 12 I'm not sure about. And I only say that, and you can call me Homer, go ahead, but there are teams like Alabama that their starting quarterback doesn't play the whole game. Yeah. He doesn't get a chance to showcase his talents. No, Jalen Hurts could be a top 10 quarterback. Nobody will ever know, because they play their backups half the game. Okay.
Yeah, no, but I have Clemson at number 3. I think having Clemson behind Notre Dame is extremely annoying, because Clemson only lost because they lost their quarterback for a single game, and that game is not telling of how Clemson really is as a football team. I think if you had Clemson and Alabama go up against each other right now, that would also be a really good game, one-score game. I think Alabama would win that game, but to say that Notre Dame is the better team than Clemson, I think is complete trash. And then so I have Clemson 3, but then I have Georgia at number 4, because Georgia is undefeated, and they have been destroying teams. Like that Florida game, even though Georgia's a lot better than Florida, we expect a rivalry game, Florida to come out strong, like, hey, we're defending our coach, we're defending our season right here. But no, then Georgia completely flattens them across the board in all facets of the game. So that's my top 4. And now going into teams that I think, just the teams right after that, just my 5 and 6 teams. I have Penn State at number 5, because maybe it's me validating Ohio State to number 2, why I think Penn State should be number 5. But the fact that they have Ohio State at 6 and Penn State at 7, I don't understand that, because I don't think Oklahoma is better than those teams. I know Oklahoma beat Ohio State, but I don't think they are
in Ohio State.
Yes, but I think that is more of a. I mean, if you look at last year's game when Oklahoma and Ohio State played, Ohio State destroyed them, and that was in Oklahoma, no? Or was that on a neutral field?
No, it was in Oklahoma.
Yeah, so I mean, the exact opposite happened, and I think Ohio State has more talent across the board than Oklahoma. Just Oklahoma has a better quarterback.
I love Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. I actually hope that he ends up on the Jets secretly, but it's fine, because I have Penn State as my 8th team and Ohio State as 7. I don't have them written down here.
Yeah,
but. I wish I could flip-flop it, and I can't because of the head-to-head matchup that just happened.
No, that's fair.
But moving forward, so many things could happen. Miami could easily move themselves back into the top 4. Not back into the top 4, into the top 4, though, because of their schedule moving forward. Their toughest games as they're undefeated now, are still to come.
Yeah.
So this could all change. Oklahoma could lose a game. If Oklahoma loses one game, they're out of the top 10 at this point. If any of these teams, except for one, lose a game, they're out.
Well, I think if Georgia loses to Alabama and they lose by like 3, that doesn't kill Georgia.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's different. But if Alabama crushes Georgia by 17 to 30,
they're done.
They're done.
Absolutely.
Any other loss by any of these teams are done. The only team on my list that I think can afford a loss and will still be a top 2 team is Alabama.
Yeah, no, I could definitely understand that. But I have Notre Dame at number 6. I don't really think Notre Dame. I think they're good. Obviously, their only loss is to Georgia, and Georgia is obviously a good team this year. But Notre Dame has. I mean, the USC win was impressive, but I kind of expected that because USC has been
looked great.
Exactly. So like I think that's why they're really getting this. They're being revered right now, and they'll play Miami in 2 weeks. And I don't think Miami is that good. I mean, I saw you had Miami ranked 6th, so I had to do my rankings just to see where I would put Miami, and I put them at 16. So
I just respect the fact that they're undefeated and they haven't had the easiest schedule so far, and it's only going to get tougher. But Miami's true colors are going to shine over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they haven't beaten a ranked team yet, and the FSU game, like, that looks like a good win at the time, but going back, that does not look like a good win anymore.
It's not a good win. The only good win against FSU this season, call me Homer, go ahead, but it's Alabama. It's the only good win against FSU this season because of where they were and who they had on the team at the time.
No, I completely understand that. And then FSU is a completely different team nowadays, and I mean, they're getting throttled by Boston College, which if you said to me at the beginning of the year that Boston College is going to beat FSU 35-3, I would have laughed in your freaking face.
I had FSU losing one game all season.
Yeah,
two games.
We both thought they were going
both
to
Alabama. First game of the season and the last game of the season, because that's how talented they were.
Yeah, we both had them in the playoff.
So it doesn't make any sense, but a lot of those players seem to be not giving maximum effort because they've already looked forward to next season or their careers in the NFL if they're juniors or seniors. I think that whole FSU program at the moment is not in turmoil, just this season is in turmoil and it's a wash, and Jimbo Fisher should not lose his job. Nothing should happen. They just need to hit the reset button, start over next year with their healthy quarterback back, and FSU is just going to be just fine.
Yeah, so with Notre Dame, their one loss is to Georgia, and it was 2019, so 1 point loss. It's essentially a pick 'em right there. Their remaining schedule is Wake Forest, which they'll win, and the game against Miami. That's going to be a big game going forward. Now, I think Notre Dame is going to win that game, but I also don't think that validates Notre Dame in any way, shape, or form if they end up beating them. Because the teams that they've beaten, they've looked impressive in some of their wins, but
I think it'll look different at the end of the season depending on who Miami wins and loses against. Because if you go and look at Miami's schedule, they still have their tougher games left.
Yeah, no. If Miami goes into Virginia Tech and they beat them by, we'll say, 10 points. Then this Miami Notre Dame game is like, Miami Notre Dame game of back in the 80s.
Yes.
So
which is what we want to see.
Oh, absolutely. But I just don't see Miami being that team. But wrapping everything up here, I think Alabama is by and far the best team. Who do you have as, like, not what your rankings are right now, but going into the college football playoffs, who do you think is going to be the number 2 team?
The number 2 team?
Yes. Well, assuming I'm assuming you're gonna have Alabama number 1.
Yes.
So the number 2 team.
The number 2 team will either be Clemson or Georgia.
Okay. Yeah. No,
depending on the loss to Alabama.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Coming up on the flip side, we will be giving you our mid-season NFL power rankings. You're listening to BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And we're back, and we're going to go from college football to the NFL. And we're going to do our mid-season power rankings every 4 weeks. We're going to do this. Week 17 is excluded because nobody cares about Week 17. My power rankings are going to look a heck of a lot different from Week 4. As you know, I had the Patriots at 13 in Week 4. I can promise you they're not at 13 anymore. But I kind of want to just dive right into my 32 through 17 just to get an idea. I want you to tell me what you disagree with.
Okay.
Browns 32, 49ers 31, Giants 30, Cardinals 29, Colts 28, Packers 27, Bears 26, Dolphins 25, Jets 24, Buccaneers 23, Ravens 22, Bengals 21, Titans 20, Raiders 19, Chargers 18, and the Washington Redskins at 17.
Okay, my biggest problems here with your list, I think you have the Colts way too high. You have the Colts at 28.
Way I look at it, are they better than the Browns? Yes.
Yes, that's the only team.
We haven't seen Garoppolo with the 49ers right now. I would take T.Y. Hilton and the supporting cast on the offense, for at least the offense for the Colts right now, over the 49ers. The Giants have lost their talented players for this year. Cardinals have lost their talented players for the year. And then you have the Colts. So as it stands right now, without David Johnson, without Carson Palmer, I'm taking the Colts over the Cardinals. Without all of the weapons for Eli Manning, I'm taking the Colts over the Giants. And until we see what the 49ers are going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo and how it's going to work out, I'm taking the Colts over the 49ers at the moment.
It's crazy because the Colts have had like one of the easiest schedules so far this season. They've beaten the Browns, they've beaten the 49ers, and they've beaten the Cardinals, and all three of those games were at home. And they're just beating the trash.
So it makes total sense why they're at 28.
But no, I still think that's way too high. But also another thing I disagree with. You have the Jets at 24. Is this just you being a homer? I have them much lower than that.
I have them at 24 because I think that they're better than the Bears. They're better than Packers without Aaron Rodgers. Yes. I think that the Packers are absolute trash without Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
No matter who you have a quarterback, they can't get the ball to Jordan Nelson or Randall Cobb or Devontae Adams. So, the Dolphins, yeah, they're 1-1 against the Jets, but they got smoked against the Jets, and then they should have lost the second game. And there's nobody else on this list who Browns, 49ers, Giants, Cardinals, Colts, Packers, Bears, Dolphins, and then you have the Jets. I think that the Jets could beat every single one of these teams with how they are listed on their depth charts, with injuries included right now.
You think the Jets are better than Chicago?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I absolutely do, because they're not throwing the ball a lot. Josh McCown has looked phenomenal for the Jets so far, at least over the last couple of weeks. And I know we're on a 3-game losing streak, but we're supposed to be in a rebuilding stage.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've had 3 wins on the year, we've had a 3-game winning streak on the year, our young player Jamal Adams is looking like he's going to become that star safety. Marcus May, our young players look to be thriving. And that's all you want to see out of the Jets right now. And I think that because their young players are thriving and they're playing for each other, I have them at 24, but it is kind of crazy that I just want to throw this out there. The Jets hired Todd Bowles. They have lost to Dan Quinn. They have lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars with Doug Marrone.
Yep.
They've lost to every coach that they interviewed for the job the year they gave Bowles the job. And the next one was McDermott. And McDermott, they're going to play this weekend, and they canceled McDermott's interview on a Wednesday morning, because they hired Bowles on a Tuesday night, and the interview is supposed to be on Wednesday night. So every coach that they interviewed or were going to interview have beaten the Jets since Bowles has been hired.
No, Jacksonville's coach, they lost. Jacksonville actually lost to the Jets. In week, 5? The Jets pulled out that BS bullcrap.
No, yeah, but I think it was a couple of years ago.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Who was it? It was Gus Bradley. It might have been who interviewed with. I don't know who it was, but I read that stat somewhere.
Because Marrone was the head coach for the Bills.
Yes.
And then for some reason he didn't want to be the head coach for the Bills anymore.
No.
He's like, I'm done. I'll be the coordinator for Jacksonville. I don't want to be the head coach for Buffalo.
I'm sick of this snow.
But I just want to run through my 32 through 17 right here. I got Cleveland at 32, Indy at 31, San Francisco at 30, the New York Jets at 29. The Green Bay Packers at 28, the New York Giants at 27, the Arizona Cardinals at 26, the Miami Dolphins at 25, the Baltimore Ravens at 24, the Chicago Bears at 23, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my 22nd team, the Denver Broncos at 21, Cincinnati at 20, Oakland at 19, Washington 18, and Buffalo 17. Any gripes with that?
Yeah, Buffalo. How could they be at 17? They're 5-2. They look phenomenal. They're sitting, tied atop of the AFC East with the Patriots right now. Buffalo looks to be the real deal under their new coach. They look to be thriving. They just added Kelvin Benjamin, who is a top-notch wide receiver. I don't know what happened in Carolina, but we all know Kelvin Benjamin has tons of talent and potential to be a number one star wide receiver. So I don't disagree with a lot on your list, but I don't know how you can have the Bills so far down on your list. That mind boggles me. They're 5-2 right now.
Okay, yeah. So based on who they've played, in my opinion, they only have one legitimate win, and that is against Atlanta in Atlanta. That is a very tough thing to do, and I'll give them credit for that. But a lot of their wins, I have teams that I have them beating. I have them worse than them. So I have. It's not like I have. It's like completely out of whack because I have Oakland at 19, and they beat them. I have Buffalo ahead of them. They lost to Cincinnati, but I have Cincinnati below them, which I think you can argue Cincinnati is a lot better than Buffalo. And then I have Denver at 21, and Buffalo beat Denver. I have the Jets at 29. The Buffalo beat the Jets, and the Buccaneers. The Buffalo beat the Buccaneers. I think that was a faulty win because of how, if you just watched how the game went, the Buccaneers were putting up points against them in Buffalo, and Buffalo won that game because of the kickoff return was fumbled, and it led to a Buffalo field goal, which Buffalo won that game. So I think that's a little bit of a faulty final. So I have Tampa lower than them, so I don't think it's that off. Like, I mean, we can go into the further the teams that I have ahead of them if you'd like, and we can make that comparison. But
we're getting there. I have them at 11. I don't have them in my top 10.
Okay.
But I think that 11 to 15 range somewhere. They're 5-2 right now. You gotta respect the fact that they're on pace to stop the longest playoff drought in all four major sports right now.
Yeah. So I just have. I think they're a very average team, and I think putting them at 17, I think it's a little too high, honestly. But because they are 5-2, I have to give them that respect to not be bringing them lower. I just have them as a completely average football team.
So who do you have from 16 to 1?
16 to 1, I have Detroit at 16, but Detroit and Buffalo, I did struggle with that one. I think just because Detroit, I love them going into the year, and I just love the way they play in the fourth quarter. And then you just look at the way they played against Pittsburgh last week. I mean, they lost that game, but hey, like Pittsburgh, I have super high in the rankings. I have the Tennessee Titans at number 15. This is one I struggle with because Tennessee, I also expect to be a lot better. And I think the fact that because Mariota has been playing worse lately, and I think that's because of his nagging injuries. He can't move, he can't run around the pocket.
No, he's not the same quarterback if he's not mobile.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? They've won the last two games that he's been like that. So I can't fault them for being worse than what they really are. And their loss to Miami, that doesn't bother me because Mariota did not play. The only dragging losses that they really have are against the Texans and against the Raiders. And the Raiders, we thought were going to be a good team going into this season. So I have Tennessee at 15, Carolina at 14, the Los Angeles Chargers at 13, Houston at 12, Jacksonville at 11, Atlanta at 10, Minnesota at 9, Dallas at 8, number 17 is New Orleans. I have the Los Angeles Rams at 6, Kansas City 5, Seattle 4, Philadelphia Eagles are 3, Pittsburgh Steelers are 2, and my number 1 team is the New England Patriots.
Of course they are.
Dude, it's not even like close. I mean, if you look at New England and how they've been playing since the Buccaneers game, their defense has really knocked down, and they've still been giving up a lot of yards, but they've been going back to that defense where it's bend don't break.
They look much better, and it was bound to happen. They're the Patriots until Tom Brady and Belichick are gone. They'll figure out a way to win games. They'll figure out a way to pick up what's going on, and they're not going to struggle for long. They never do. They've struggled in the past for a game or two to start the season back in, I think it was 2014. They lost to the Chiefs in week 2, 42-14. What happened? I mean, the chances are they'll win the Super Bowl this year. But
do you have any major gripes with that? I mean, the other team that Buffalo lost to was Carolina. I have them at 14. So I feel like those teams are kind of
how can you have Seattle in your top 5 at the moment when they haven't looked like a top 5 team?
Did you see them against Houston last week?
Yeah, but did you see their defense against Houston last week?
That's a fair point, but their defense has played well throughout the entire season against every team that they've played except for 2 games.
and that's
they've only given up more than 20 points in 2 games.
So I expect them to be in my top 5, but at the moment I can't put them in there because I think maybe I could have them.
I just like the way Russell Wilson's playing football, and their defense is playing well, except for that Texans game. But the Texans we can't be sleeping on. And I have them at 12. I know you.
I think
like
they just
more
fixed
than me.
their biggest weakness.
The
Seahawks. Yeah, with the O tackle Dwayne Brown.
Yes.
So that should bolster that. That should help Seattle a lot.
And this prediction is just like where I have them now, and also where I see them being. Like it's. And most of the teams I have them where they are now, but Seattle is like I have to put them in the top 5 because I mean, who else am I going to throw in there? Like Los Angeles, I have at 6, but they beat Los Angeles, and I know they might have gotten outplayed that game, but they got outplayed and still found a way to win.
One team that you could put in there,
okay,
whose defense has looked great over the last 5 weeks. They're on a 5-game win streak. Who are they?
I think I know who you're going to say.
The New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
And if we're going by mid-season, they may not be in the top 5 after the season. But if we're going mid-season right now, what's happened through 8 weeks?
Yeah.
The Saints might be the hottest team in all football right now.
Yeah, the 5-game winning streak.
So that's one that maybe I could switch in yours is Seattle and the Saints, and that's what I have in mind. Actually,
so you would put Seattle at 7 and New Orleans at. I have New Orleans at, Seattle at 4, and I have New Orleans at 7. So
I have Seattle at 7, and I have New Orleans at 5.
All right, run through your rankings.
So I got Broncos at 16, Lions at 15, Falcons at 14, Jaguars at 13, Panthers at 12, Bills at 11, Cowboys at 10, Rams at 9, Texans at 8, Seattle at 7, the Vikings at 6, the Saints at 5, the Steelers at 4, the Patriots at 3, the Chiefs 2, and the Eagles. Unfortunately, I have to put them at my number 1 team right now. They look to be it, but I don't think the Eagles will even be in my top 5 come Week 16 rankings. So this is truly a mid-season, because if you want me to give my opinion for my top 5 that's going to be in Week 17, it'll probably be the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Saints, and Seattle. Okay. And the Eagles will come out, and Seattle will go in.
Okay, the one big problem, I have one major problem with your top 16, and I have one problem. You have Denver at 15, bro. Explain that.
16.
You have Denver
16.
Still.
Their defense.
Why?
Their defense. They are dead center in my power rankings. 16 and 17 are going to be your dead center out of 32.
Okay.
They are dead center, and their defense is phenomenal. I know that they just got lit up against Kansas City, but their defense has held them in every single game this year. They have had a top 2, 3 at least defense, top 5 defense this year. The Broncos, their offense has stuttered, yes, and they're switching to Brock Osweiler next weekend.
But dude, how do you have the Chargers worse than the Broncos right now?
Because
I feel like this is like we thought that game going into it. Oh, Denver's definitely the pick in this game. We both had Denver as our basically lock of the week, and they got destroyed.
No, you make a valid point. Maybe I could switch Denver and Broncos, so you could put Chargers at 16 and Broncos at 18. I appreciate that, but their defense on a weekly basis is the reason why they're not in 29 through 32 range, in my opinion.
Okay, because I think if the ball bounced the other way in 2 of the Chargers games, they're 5-3 and not 3-5.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like if we're looking at just like how the game is played and how they're playing against other teams, just throw out the score. I mean, I think I have the Chargers at 13.
I can't hate on the Broncos defense. They play their heart and souls every game. They are the reason the Broncos are even remotely competitive this year.
All right, are the Brock Osweiler got named the starting quarterback for the Broncos? Are they better or worse with Brock Osweiler?
I have to see. Brock Osweiler, yes, people say he's on Denver, but true football fans will know it's a different coach, it's a different playbook, it's a different system. He has to learn everything from scratch. It's not the jersey that he's putting on, it's the playbook that he knew. And he's not with Gary Kubiak anymore. So Brock Osweiler is, in a sense, he's on a whole new team.
Okay.
Whether it's the same logo or not.
Do you think he's better or worse than Simeon?
quarterback-wise, I think he's better.
Okay.
Do I think
Okay,
he's
that's
better
fine.
for their system right now? No, I don't, because Simeon's been in the system for 2 years
okay.
now.
And I can understand that, but say you were making this decision week 13. You've seen him a couple weeks. You would take Brock Osweiler if he knows the playbook. You would take Brock Osweiler.
He's got more talent, yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. All right. The other thing that I also have a slight problem with, we did kind of touch on this with how I put Buffalo at 17. You have them at 11. Explain yourself.
5-2. I know they beat Atlanta. They have a signature win.
Yeah, they do have
They have a signature win. You're not going to have more than 1, 2, maybe 3 signature wins in a season.
I agree. I agree.
They've got one, and some teams are lucky to even have just one signature win. So I could have even put them at 10. Maybe taking the Texans out, but the Texans' offense is too good for me to not put them in the top 10. Deshaun Watson is looking like Aaron Rodgers out there.
I mean, I have the Texans at 12. Maybe I'm a little harped on their record right now. I think what are they, 3-4?
3-4.
Yeah, so maybe I'm a little harped on their record, but they have faced a difficult schedule.
Yes, a very difficult schedule, and they've done fairly well with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, no, and it's like we have to acknowledge that Deshaun Watson is one of the top 15 or 20 quarterbacks right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So like, I know he's playing as the number 1 quarterback, but just going forward, he's definitely made that step, and it's like, what are the Cleveland Browns thinking?
Well, here's a question for you. Let me throw this question out there for you. So there's been a lot of young quarterbacks over the last 3-4 years coming to the league. You got Mariota, you got Winston, you got Wentz, you got Goff, you got Deshaun Watson. And some have the name AJ McCarron,
Yes.
Jimmy Garoppolo. If there's a one quarterback out of that list of names, who would you take?
I know where you're going with this, but I'm not going to feed into it. I take Carson Wentz.
No, I'm just. I was asking because
I thought you were trying to lead me to say Watson, but
No.
I would take Carson Wentz.
I was thinking about this, and I only say this because I heard it on a show earlier today, so I don't want to be a segment, but I just wanted your honest opinion on it. And you take a guess. What would mine be?
I think you would take Deshaun Watson.
And you're close. He'd be my number 2 guy. But
Okay, who would you take?
I would take Mariota. He's got no red zone interceptions in 3 years in the NFL. That
Okay.
is highly impressive to me.
Okay.
If he is healthy, we both expected the Titans to be a top 10 team this year.
Yeah, I mean, I put him in my AFC Championship game.
Exactly. So I'm taking Mariota on the sole purpose he doesn't turn the ball over. He's smart, he's athletic, he's mobile, he can be a pocket passer, he can do it all. He's like a Deshaun Watson, but a couple of years now advanced.
I mean, he's only got. He has been hurt, but he only has 4 touchdowns this season. 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. That ratio is terrible.
Yeah, and their team they haven't had the season they've been looking for, but like you said, he's a different player when he's limited to not being mobile. Because then teams know that he can't run. That's part of the threat that brings Mariota.
So I'm just looking at the stats that they have for the 2017 season, and they have Marcus Mariota as the 23rd quarterback right now, and Jameis Winston as the number 18. This is going by passer rating. Jameis Winston has an 88 passer rating, and Mariota has an 83. You would still take Mariota over Winston?
Yes, Winston is too turnover prone for me.
I mean, he's only got 2 more interceptions, and he's played the same amount of games. Actually, they both missed 1 game.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just Jameis Winston seems to. You know who he reminds me of is Peyton Manning, in a sense. And I don't say that he's going to be the best ever.
Good.
No, but Peyton Manning struggled in his early years. He struggled.
Okay.
But he learned and had that learning curve, and soon enough, I truly believe that Jameis Winston will have that learning curve. But he's only been in the league 3 years. And as of right now, I would take Mariota for the sake of he does not turn the ball over. And if he does, it's not in the red zone. If you have the ball in the red zone, you want 2 things to happen. To end, I lied. And I lied on the podcast, so I'm sorry. But if you're in the red zone, you want 1 thing to happen. That drive to end with a kick, whether it's an extra point or a field goal. And that's what happens when the Titans get into the red zone. Whether it's a touchdown, a field goal, whatever the case may be, he's not turning the ball over inside the 20. And that might be the most important stat in all of football.
Okay, I disagree because I think if you're throwing 2 touchdowns, if you're going to the red zone 3 times and you throw 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, to me that's better than kicking 3 field goals.
Yeah, but it also has to do with the supporting cast. You put Marcus Mariota on majority of teams right now.
Do you think
healthy?
Do you think the Buccaneers are better with Mariota over Winston?
No, Winston fits their system.
Okay. Do you think Winston or the Titans are better with Winston over Mariota?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
But,
all right, you're consistent.
But Mariota, I think if you were to put him on a team like the Colts, or he instantly makes that team better, or
I think Mariota would be a good fit on like Seattle. If they didn't have Russell Wilson, obviously.
Or the Jets, or even the Giants as
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. There's so many teams that you put Mariota on, and he instantly makes them. For the Jets, not a contender yet, but Jacksonville, a contender. Indianapolis could be a contender with him because they have weapons. It's just there has to do with surrounding talent too. We all know Mariota's not going to be a Brady. None of these quarterbacks are going to be Tom Brady. Tom Brady makes everybody around him better.
Yeah.
But for most quarterbacks, you need to have the talent around you too, and I don't think Mariota has all that talent right now.
I just want to touch on one quick thing right here. Just going back to the bottom half of our rankings, we both have. Well, I have the Packers at 28 and the Giants at 27. You have the Packers at 27 and the Giants at 30. And they were both playoff teams last year, like teams that we thought were good.
What's funny is I had the Giants and Packers playing each other in the NFC Championship game this year. But
Jeez.
Aaron Rodgers goes down, Odell Beckham goes down, Brandon Marshall goes down. Those 3 injuries right there crushed both of their seasons.
Well, I think if the Giants, because I thought this going into the year, but the Giants, even with Brandon Marshall and Odell, I'd still have them in my bottom 20. And but Aaron Rodgers, if you put Aaron Rodgers back in the Packers, I think they're the 5th best team in the league.
They could even be higher than that.
No, but yeah, no, I'm saying that. I'm saying at a minimum.
Yeah. Oh, without question, the team I'm taking out if the Packers are in is easily. I hate to say it, but the Eagles.
Okay.
I know they're 7-1 right now, have them at the top, but the Saints are on a 5-game win streak. The Steelers and the Eagles play each other right now. My money's on the Steelers. The Patriots and the Eagles play each other right now. My money's on the Patriots. And the Eagles and the Chiefs play each other right now. My money's on the Chiefs. But somehow I have the Eagles at number 1. I'm trying to give them respect. 7-1 right now, but that's because there are injuries. Things happen.
The thing that really bothers me, the feeling why I don't have them number 1, why I have them number 3, is because I don't think their secondary is that good. Now I know their front 7 is amazing.
61 yards per game.
Yeah. But
it's 10 better than the second best team who has 71, which is Denver. Second best team is letting up 71 yards per game against the rush.
Wow. Okay.
It's 10 yards difference per game. That's pretty big to me. So,
all right, that's all I got.
It's crazy how similar our lists are, but yet so different.
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about...
we have the major agreements, like with our top. We only disagree on our top 5 with one team.
And the one team that we disagree with, you even said that it could be a flip. It could be a flip flop right now, and it could be a flip flop next week too.
Yeah.
These teams are so even. The only team that really stands out above everybody else to me right now are the Steelers and Patriots. I think that they're the 2 top-notch teams in the AFC and NFC, and I don't think that any team is better than both of those teams right now. So
I agree.
But that being said, the Eagles will love to have their last week at the number 1 power ranking because that will be it for the season. And next week, we're going to be focusing on our DraftKings lineups, our waiver wire picks, and the usual. Maybe we'll have a surprise in there for you, maybe not, but you're going to have to listen to find out right here on BTH.